Hello, this presentation will be on the basics of effective BYOD implementation. BYOD stands for Bring Your Own Device. And essentially what BYOD is a system where the students bring their own devices, which can include laptops, tablets such as an iPad or an Android or a Kindle, or even smartphones such as an iPhone or an Android, any device that can access the internet. Some of the advantages for adopting a BYOD strategy is that it is cost effective. As stated previously, the district does not provide the devices for every student. They provide the Wi-Fi, so the students are able to access it. This is good because it cuts the cost, but also makes it so that if there are limited resources, there would not need to be a concern about, as an example, booking a computer lab, because some research could be done inside the classroom. It also extends the learning day. Students are able to do the work in class, but they're also able to do it outside the class. Learning can take place beyond just in the classroom when online resources are chosen wisely. BYOD is interactive. The students can work in groups. They can collaborate online. There are apps or programs that can be used for students to work collaboratively without being right next to each other. BYOD helps teach essential skills and standards. With 21st century skills and Common Core state standards, which will be discussed later, some of the skills are collaboration, working together, problem solving, evaluation of sources, critical thinking. These are all skills that technology can be used very effectively to address. Also, the BYOD policy, when used effectively, facilitates differentiation. Students are able to work together while differentiating for the needs of the different students, and these will all be addressed in this presentation. One of the big reasons associated with bullet 4 here is Common Core state standards, which has been adopted in 45 states. By Grunwald Associates and the Learning First Alliance, with support from AT&T, found that 71% of parents believe mobile devices open up new learning opportunities for their children. And the thought process behind this is that within a classroom, first of all, the students are able to take advantage of informal situations where the devices are there, they want to look something up, they can do that. They don't need to wait for a computer lab, a mobile lab. They can do things spur of the moment, take advantage of teachable moments. Outside of class, you have collaboration, and this ties with the 70% of parents want teachers to help their kids discover educational apps. If the students are able to use these on their own outside the classroom, then you can effectively extend the learning day. 64% of parents believe schools should teach students to use mobile devices safely. One of the main reasons cited for not having devices allowed in school is safety, whether it be what are they looking at, cyberbullying, any list of options. If the children or the students are going to have the devices anyways, one of the main arguments by advocates is that they need to learn how to use these effectively, whether it involves what is cyberbullying, what is it, how to use this effectively, the resources, how to use them safely. It could be as common an issue as cyberbullying, texting while driving if you're talking about devices and high schoolers. It could be anything that could be perceived as potential harm to students is not only a reason not to use it, but more effectively, a reason to teach them how to use it safely. 52% of parents want schools to increase the use of mobile devices for learning. This ties into the previous three here because you have mobile devices as devices that could enrich a classroom, extend the learning day, and also by using them and teaching the students how to use them effectively and safely, creating a more safe environment for the students. Common Core is based on anchor standards for each skill: reading, writing, speaking, listening, comprehension, and so forth. The reading anchor standard that applies most effectively, although there are a lot of tie-ins, the one that ties most effectively into BYOD is that students need to be able to integrate and evaluate content presented in diverse media and formats, including visually and quantitatively, as well as in words. If you're discussing reading, we're not just talking about books. What we also talk about in terms of diverse media is electronic format. That could include, if you mean visually and quantitatively, it could be graphs, it could be charts online, it could be blogs, it could be any media electronically, which includes books because there's ebooks. So the students need to be able to look at these diverse sources, be able to evaluate them for how effective they are, do they address what they're supposed to address, and also be able to interpret what do they mean in and of them on their own, and as well as a part of whatever the bigger picture is, the assignment or whatever it is they're working on. Writing anchor standards, in this case, we have develop and strengthen writing as needed by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, or trying a new approach. Although this particular standard does not mention the internet or online publishing, this is an important one because there's a lot of resources with BYOD to address this. If you have revising, editing, rewriting, it could be a blog, something ongoing where they talk about reflection, and this could be for the purpose of editing itself, or it could be simply to get them to reflect on how they can improve on an assignment in the future, reflecting on their performance. There are also apps and resources involved with editing, such as wikis, where a number of students can work together to peer edit, Google Apps with Google Docs, where they can collaborate with those, where they can edit a device or edit a project in real time with multiple users. Now we get to the technology aspect. Use technology, including the internet, to produce and publish writing and to interact and collaborate with others. This ties in a little more directly with what was just said about editing online. Wikis, Google Docs, blogs, getting students to produce their own writing, interact with each other, comment to each other, reflect on what they're saying, and this could be done in a classroom as opposed to, let's say, a few students sitting together and reading each other's papers. They could be on devices, sharing, commenting, producing an assignment at the same time, working collaboratively with each other, but without being huddled around one computer on one device, such as a desktop computer. And as they leave the classroom, the learning time can continue because they can collaborate outside the classroom, because if the technology is in the classroom and they're bringing it, then they're taking it away with them as well. The third anchor standard, most relevant to this topic of BYOD, is the students need to be able to gather relevant information from multiple print and digital sources, assess the credibility and accuracy for each source, and integrate the information while avoiding plagiarism. Any given search put into any search engine, whether it be Yahoo, Bing, Google, will yield hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of hits or potential sources. The students need to develop the skill to look at these sources or some of the sources, and be able to pick and choose which ones are the most appropriate. This involves evaluating the source, looking for things such as bias, credibility, wrote it, why they write it, what was their reason for writing it in terms of, are they trying to sell you a product, are they trying to persuade you, are they being objective? And the students need to be able to develop this skill. The way hits or responses show up in Google and Yahoo and other search engines is usually by what the search engine and the programming determines to be the most relevant. This does not mean that it's the most relevant to the student. It could be things that are the most frequently looked at. Wikipedia gets looked at frequently, and so that shows up towards the top. So the students need to be aware of that, and also they need to be able to cite their sources so that they understand that what plagiarism is and how to avoid it. Speaking and listening anchor standards. Prepare for and participate effectively in a range of conversations and collaborations with diverse partners, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. The students need to be able to collaborate. They need to be able to communicate well, and this involves whether it be face-to-face, but also electronically. They need to understand, for example, that in an email or a text or electronic communication, they do not have the opportunity to read the body language of the person they're speaking to. And so sarcasm isn't necessarily an effective means of communicating, and oftentimes it is damaging. And it's through the use of devices as seen in BYOD that they can learn this in a structured setting as opposed to learning it through trial and error, perhaps. Integrate and evaluate information presented in diverse media and formats, including visually, quantitatively, and orally. Most often, people think of media presentation as PowerPoint. There are numerous additional formats now, whether it be Prezi, presentation, Slide Rocket, and the students need to understand what is effective and what isn't effective, and when presenting, how to present effectively. Don't make it too busy, work on your contrast, say what you have to say, use a presentation tool as a resource and not a crutch. These are things that students should be aware of. Make strategic use of digital media and visual displays of data to express information and enhance understanding of presentations. This ties back to the previous standard in terms of not just knowing how to put pictures in a visual presentation, but what to put, when to put it, and how to organize and structure a presentation in the most effective way possible. Along with the Common Core State Standards of 21st Century Skills, and these are also seen oftentimes as opportunities for BYOD. Within 21st Century Skills, there are three divisions: life and career skills, which includes flexibility, initiative, cross-cultural interaction, productivity, and accountability. Learning and innovation skills involving critical thinking, collaboration, and innovation, and information, media, and technology skills, meaning the students need the ability to access, evaluate, analyze, create, and apply. The information, media, and technology skills component is the one that is probably the most relevant to the Common Core standards we just looked at. In terms of information technology, that ties back to finding sources, being able to evaluate them. The students can access so many sources so quickly, they need to be able to look at them with a critical eye. They need to perhaps know that a one keyword search is not the most effective. They might need to find multiple keyword searches and figure out what is the best fit for their assignment or their project. They need to evaluate those as well. Media, they need to be able to use the media effectively, whether it be social networks or other types of media. And the technology skills, knowing how to create and use technology in an effective manner. Oftentimes, a student might perhaps create a presentation, spend so much time on the animations and the visuals that the content leaves to be desired. And this is something that students need to work on to be effective. And also, one of the big things with BYOD in terms of the learning and innovation skills, the students need to develop the ability to critically think and collaborate and innovate These are things that really are a great opportunity to address through BYOD because of the fact that these devices can be brought in and they can be innovative in terms of, they're working on something and somebody has a question and they can refer to their devices to check on information, enrich the class. They can collaborate through the devices inside and outside the classroom. And this is something we'll be seeing as a recurring theme throughout BYOD discussions. Some key points of BYOD. Technology in the classroom should only be done to improve learning. If a common thought process is that technology should not be used in the classroom just for the sake of using technology. There are 4 levels to implementation of technology in the classroom. They are substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Substitution would be, as an example, replacing a typewriter with a computer or a word processor, just to type. One program or one tool is being replaced simply with another tool. Augmentation, perhaps typing something into a computer, but being able to submit it electronically, for example, in an email. Modification, maybe instead of typing a paper, a teacher might have a student write a blog about it, publish it online. It should be noted at this time that a blog is a form of publication, which ties back to the Common Core as seen previously. And then redefinition. Collaboration. Finding sources, as an example, such as Google Docs, where students can type in real time in a program, create a document, edit each other's work, and then evaluate it. Another key point is that not everyone has access to the same resources. This is important for several reasons. For one thing, not all students may have access to this technology. In such a case, then group work, interpersonal work, and activities would be most appropriate. The other thing to consider is that different programs and devices operate in different operating systems. There are 3 forms. There's internet-based, as seen as a laptop. There's Android-based, as seen as some tablets. And then there's also iOS-based, which is as seen on an iPhone. On an iPhone or iPad and on an Android device, there are apps. But the apps used between the two are not always one for one seen in both devices. So if a device is, or if a resource is internet-based, it could be used on all 3 devices. If it is an iPhone app or an Apple app, the educator should check to see if it is available on Android or on the internet in general to make sure that no students are excluded, or at least know what devices are available so nobody's excluded, and so that they can plan appropriately. Everyone needs to have equal access. This ties into the previous statement about the devices. The teacher should check things out, make sure they work, and they need to test it out. That's key point 4. Test everything out, make sure that the device or the resource or the app not only is compatible, but also that it works well. There are plenty of apps that are free or programs that are free that are not conducive to the classroom. 5th key point, probably the most important one, have fun with it. Some examples of some resources. These are divided by the skill. Collaboration. There's Skype, an online video conferencing program. Google Plus, it's a social network along the lines of Facebook or Twitter, but it has different qualities, different pluses and negatives, as do Twitter and Facebook. Symbaloo, which is a digital bookmarking program used for gathering sources, which either the students can do or the educator can do and share it with the students. Ning, another social network that the teacher can work with on their own and cater to the student's needs. Twitter, which was mentioned previously, and wikis. Wikis are collaborative websites. It should be noted that each of these programs will be looked at a little more in depth in future programs. These are just examples. For assessment, teacher could use Socrative, which is an online assessment tool where the teacher can provide multiple choice questions, polls, open-ended questions, and the students can respond to them in there with their phones, and it shows up in real time on an AV projector or a smart board. Poll everywhere. Teacher can, similar to Socrative, give quizzes, open-ended questions, and the students can text in their answer from any device. Moodle, course management system with a number of tools. Hot Potato, quiz tool. Blogs, an online writing program. Or Today's Meet, which is a form of back channel where teachers can put up a back channel and the students respond to them with any questions they may have so that they can be addressed at a future time, whether it's at the end of class or a future class. Some research resources will be looked into in the future, such as Google Scholar, not only as a resource for sites, but also for building skills about how to research for credible source and other credibility sources as well. And some presentation tools. These include Prezi, Google Presentation, SlideRocket, which makes short videos out of PowerPoint and Google type presentations, and Glogster. All these programs will be looked into in the future in these BYOD tutorials. Thank you.